Welcome to the October 2022 Talking Circle for the State Tribal Education Partnership Program. Before we begin, as usual, we'll share our standard disclaimer.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
All right, excellent. So we're today for our agenda, we'll have a few reporting and budget items that we want to make sure are on your radar. And then we'll spend a good portion of our time discussing work-based learning. Then, of course, we'll lift up some upcoming events and activities, and then we'll finish as usual by asking for your feedback. All right, as you recall, Shayla Ortega retired and we introduced Miss Donna Bussell as the STEP Program Officer. Want to welcome Donna. Donna, do you have anything to say to the team?
Hi, everyone. I think I know most everyone on here, but happy to see you all. If you need anything, just let me know.
Excellent. Thanks, Donna. All right, and I just want to introduce myself. I'm going to be your facilitator today. My name is Patty Furlano. I am a new TA coach. I'm one of a member of team who support your work and within the administration of your grant and the implementation of your grant program and activities. I have a long background in education and supporting folks implementing grants. So I'm here to help, here to support you with the rest of the team. All right, we want to welcome our newest STEP grantee, very excited, the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe. And we'd like to ask them if they wouldn't mind to go ahead and introduce themselves if they're here with us and tell us a little bit about your project.
And I don't think they've quite joined on yet.
Okay.
So if you want to keep going, we can always circle back once they are able to log in.
Perfect. Excellent. Yeah. And what we'll do, we'll just give you a little update on that. We're going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we'll ask each of you very briefly to just talk a little bit about your project, kind of get that team camaraderie going. So we will come back to that when they're able to join us. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll review some APR updates and reminders. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So, important question, should I submit an APR update? So let's take a look at these questions. I reported 999 for some or all measures in section A of my APR. If you can answer yes to that, then you need to submit an APR update. Second question, I submitted an incomplete number or a question, number or a number that needs to be changed in section A of my APR. If you can answer yes to that, then you need to submit an APR update. And then finally, I submitted all correct and complete data in section A of my APR and did not report 999 for any measures. If you could answer no to that, that's what you did, then you do not need to submit an APR update. So important information there. Any questions on that before we go on? All right. So we're going to post the link to this in the chat, but what we want to remind everyone that everyone will need to submit an APR update this fall, and you can email those updates to oie@seiservices.com. That link is right there on the slide. And as we mentioned, if you reported 999, you'll need to report the updated data. Recall that reporting 999 means that you did not have the data at the time of reporting, but you would have the data before the end of the grant year. Your updates must include all GEPRA and project measures that were reported as 999. You should have received a calendar invite for the due date of October 27th, 2022. You will use the required reporting form ED 524B, Section A, and you must fill in the actual ratios for the GEPRA or the target and actual ratios for any project measures for which you previously entered 999. You must also provide an updated narrative for the explanation of progress based on what occurred from April 1st, the end of the last reporting period, through September 30th, the last day of the grant year. Finally, we strongly urge you to include the optional Section C reporting tool. So we'll give you just a second to digest that, see if there's any questions before we move on. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll just talk a little more about this. A few important reminders for completing Section A for the APR update. We've shared this information before, so we'll just review it very quickly just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Use the exact wording that the government provided for your GEPRA measures. For your GEPRA measures, you will only include the actual ratio. So no raw numbers, no target ratios, just the actual ratio. For your project measures, both the target ratio and the actual ratio. Just remember, your target ratio will not have changed, but your actual ratio may need to be updated. To provide an updated explanation of progress, this is where any qualitative data relevant to the performance measure is explained. Please take care to include all the elements we reviewed. Okay. So I know we went over this before, we just wanted to be sure you had it. So nothing said, we'll move on. We're going to review now some of the deadlines and guidance for your budgets. Year 3 of your STEP grant began on October 1st, 2022. Everyone will complete the budget for the new fiscal year, which will be due November 17th, 2022. When that time comes, everyone will complete the STEP optional budget revision tool and then submit the STEP optional budget revision tool to Interim Program Officer Donna Bussell. So again, important date, November 17th. All right. So we're going to post this in the chat. We've provided an optional budget reporting form, which we'll post in the chat right now for you, so you can download it. Just a reminder for our new grantee, so we don't confuse them. They'll be doing a year 1 budget revision, while others are further, we know that others of you are further along in the process. On my screen and in the file, you'll see that we've added some new tabs to the tool with examples and directions. Would it be helpful to see the form live so we can discuss questions or concerns? You can let me know that, either open your mic or put it in the chat and let us know. Would you like to look at that form, or are you feeling pretty good about it? And we'll wait just a second to see your response on that. Good. Excellent, Carl. Glad to hear it. All right. So again, please feel free to let us know if you have any questions about that. I don't see anybody with questions, so we'll go ahead and say that if you have questions about APR or the budget, be sure to join the monthly office hours. We'll have the information about those at the end of today's talking circle. Also, if you'd like, you can set up one-on-one time to help with any questions that you have. And again, we'll have information on that at the end, so we can make sure you have that info. All right, excellent. We'll go ahead and move on then. All right, so As we move into this section on work-based learning partnerships and resources, we want to make some space today for some sharing and perhaps some group problem solving. Remember, these events are held to give you those updates, but also, very importantly, to provide support and assistance to support your good work. Let us know where you are, experiences, challenges in this regard, and we'll work together to support you. Donna, I know, is eager to provide her guidance and support. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about work-based learning. But again, if you have anything to share or questions to ask, we encourage you to either open your mic or put it in the chat, and we'll have some conversations around that. So recent research, policy literature, and federal legislation suggest that comprehensive WBL programs contain three key components: the alignment of the classroom and the workplace learning, and the application of academic, technical, and employable skills in a work setting. And finally, support from the classroom or workplace mentors, excuse me. So those are the components. So let's move into some round robin sharing. We have a few prompts on the screen that we've devised based on your input from previous talking circles and what we're reading in your APRs. So I'd like to go around now our virtual table here at the Talking Circle and give each program an opportunity to talk about challenges related to workplace learning as well as sustainability. So why don't we do that? Would someone like to go first, or shall we just go down the list? If you'd like to, go ahead and open your mic and let us know a little bit about your challenges and what's happening.
This is Allison. I'll go first. So what types of work-based partners have been the most engaged? Well, we have 6 key industry areas that we work in, and the most engaged partnerships we've had have been in our hospitality, tourism, and recreation industry sector. And that is, we had 2 design your own internships. So the students went to the businesses and said, I'd really like to learn this from your business. I'd like to get an internship with you. And we worked with them on that. Those have been the most engaged. One of those businesses happens to be tribally owned, not our tribe, but the Big Lagoon Rancheria owns one of those businesses. And so they were very happy to work with us on that. We had another business that we had engaged in, but here is one of the challenges. This is one of the things here, the most challenging things, is that when you have a specific person you're working with at that business, it could be the HR director, or it could be the person over that area of the business. Like if it was one large company, had multiple areas. And we were really invested in working with this one person, and they were so gung-ho, and then they left the business. And then it was like, oh, our connection to our business partner that we had worked with is now gone. And so bringing that put the internship on hold with that business. And so then going back to the business partners and being like, well, we work with this person, and can we work with you? And so it was a revision of the job description and a delay of that internship. So if anything, having more than one contact at a business that is truly invested in the internship program is really important, because if that person leaves the business, then you just got to start all over again, which unfortunately during COVID, I guess you all know about the big resignation or big quit that happened, and a lot of people left. That's what we were faced with. What we've even done to increase our engagement among our partners, we have taken the advice of some of our partners, and we've joined the local Chamber of Commerce. And so by joining the local Chamber of Commerce, they have monthly meetings that we then go to, we send our representative to, and that we can bring flyers about what we're looking to work with them on, information, contact numbers, exchange information. And then they can come up and talk to us in a kind of informal setting of like, hey, tell us about your organization and why you want internships with us. And so that that was very helpful. Also, our county workforce development as a part of our STEP grant, our original one, when we were setting up the Tribal Education Agency, we partnered with the Workforce Development Task Force for our county. And so how we've been able to gain more partnerships is asking our workforce development people, hey, have they come to you for assistance in placement of employees? Are they looking for more people? If they have entry-level positions that we can then help transition our students, especially the ones that are graduating that don't want to go to college, but they want to get into the workforce. That's an interesting thing there, because there are kids that are just like, no, I'm done with school. I want to work. And so transitioning them with those particular partners, the ones that are actively looking for entry-level employees, that has been super helpful. So the Workforce Development Board, super helpful. The main issue that I think that we have in sustaining these partnerships and how we're trying to sustain them is communication. That we have such a small staff, and sometimes trying to get time to nurture these relationships is hard. So if anything, all I could say is you should set up a regular schedule of communication with your business partners and make it a routine thing. Like every third Monday, you contact your partner, you go, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 da, da, da. Besides having, especially if you have interns at their spot, you should be doing at least a monthly, hey, drop by, check on them, making sure that the workplace is working for the intern as well as for the partner. And that can help sustaining it. The other challenges that I can say that we've encountered, a resistance to bringing teenagers into their work site, as well as some work sites not being what we would consider safe enough for our students. So there was a business that was interested, but not in anybody under 18 because they had issues with their insurance. They were a woodworking and manufacturing place where they take wood and they create art from these huge saws and things. It was a really neat place, and we were really interested in working with them. But then they were like, well, they have to be 18 or older because of our insurance and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. So even though our students were interested and they were interested, there are just some challenges that you need to be. Workplace safety is a real biggie. So that is the challenge that the other challenge that we've encountered. How can OIE best support us in this area? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how OIE can best support us with that. So there, I hope I've touched on all the bullet points that you had listed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, that was fantastic. And I noted down some of your good solutions, which I love. So you talked about your challenges, but you talked about some of your really good solutions, having more than one contact, which is brilliant idea, because we've all been there, done that one, right? Where the person leaves and we're like, oh, we're kind of dead in the water. So you said that. You talked about joining the Chamber of Commerce, going to the meetings, and also setting up that regular schedule. So those are some great suggestions. Thank you, Allison, for sharing those. Very much so. We'd love to hear another group that would be willing to share with us. Would there be another group? And you don't necessarily have to have all the answers. If you even have the challenges, that's just fine too. We can talk about those. All right, well, we know there are some challenges out there for sure. And, we just want to kind of get that out on the table. This is hopefully a safe space for us all to kind of talk about that. And, oh, Carl, thank you. So Carl says that Esther,
I can talk a little bit
oh,
about.
please
Yeah.
do.
So we basically have several work-based learning opportunities, but it's all within the tribe at the moment. So the folks that we've been placing are high school age students, and they're working internships or work-based learning, on-the-job training, just exposure to professional environments through our ACE grant that we have and our STEAM Academy. So they're working with project coordinators and also we have 2 new A&E grants that they're working with. So we do have several new ones, and I can't give you the details because Esther's kind of keeping all those notes and things. And then Esther has also been trained in the Alaska Career Information Center. And basically that's an online portal for students to go into and really explore careers, put down what their career goals are, learn about pathways to achieve their career goals, do some aptitude, surveys, or just learn about what maybe their skills are, what careers those might fit into. So she's been trained in that. And we're actually doing some after school stuff with the students in the new charter school. So, and I'm hoping to expand that to during the day, because we have such a small staff and 130 kids in our charter school. Some of our teachers need some breaks during the day. So I'm hoping that this week or next week, we'll meet with the school principal and the tribal liaison and work out a schedule where Esther can go in and take small groups of students, log them into Access and start doing that during the school day, and provide some break. And so we were thinking we would do grades 4 and 5 up to high school seniors, but we're still developing that. We've had a lot of similar challenges, with COVID and just the construction season up here. That's one of our big pushes. It's just so hectic for everybody. And then again, it's the insurance stuff. We also were working with the Health Corporation, which is, a tribally compacted health organization here. It's called South Central Foundation, to place some interns there. But like I said, Esther's got a lot more details on this. Her poor little boy came home from the babysitter yesterday with a rash and just having a hard time breathing. And then this morning she said he didn't want to wake up very fast, and that's unusual for him. So she's running him to the clinic. So hopefully everything's going to be okay with him, and we'll update our APR and give you a more thorough report when we do our APR.
Thank you so much, Carl. And we absolutely do wish the best for that. We hate to hear that, but hopefully he's in good hands and good things will happen. We'll think those positive thoughts. But thank you for sharing about that. And absolutely, it sounds like you've got some really great things moving along and getting into place. Some of the challenges sound like, fairly ones that some of the other teams have talked about too. But thank you for doing that. We look forward to hearing more about some of the great things that you're going to be doing with your kids, for sure. So I know we also have Kara and Roxanne. Would either one of you be willing to share just a little bit about maybe your program or your challenges?
Yeah, I can hop in real quick. Sorry, I was on back-to-back meetings all day. It's been a crazy day, so I was a little bit
No
late.
worries.
But so far, the work-based learning partner we have for STEP is ACT. The biggest challenge with that is that we partnered with them. Virginia is not a big ACT state, and we have had zero support from the school systems thus far. So it really made us go back look at our grant narrative from another angle and really relook at the activities we were doing. And then we realized most of our narrative is just promoting the availability of work-based learning opportunities. So we do have a separate CTE grant, and they are partnered with Code VA, and that is a charter school here in Richmond, Virginia. And they do a lot of awesome programs for K-12 education. We previously had some funding available for our students. via that grant for what they call a Eureka workshop. So that's a coding workshop for students. They run anywhere from about $60 to $80 per session. So we're promoting that through our STEP grant to promote those work-based learning and all those different CTE opportunities, because our students were able to get it for free. So we already had an established STEP VTech newsletter. We're promoting different things like that. I was, however, contacted by ACT to let us know that Chesterfield, one of the counties here in Virginia, was working on becoming, excuse me, a work-ready community. So that goes into work-based learning as well. So we've partnered with them. And unfortunately, the biggest issue there, we've been waiting 1 whole year for a work-based learning boot camp. That's going to be their first step to becoming a work-ready community. And that is at no fault of Chesterfield or VTech or even ACT. It's just there hasn't been really a whole lot of interest, and they don't do boot camps just for one county. So they usually have a whole couple statewide events. So those have been a lot of challenges, but it really caused us to look at our grant narrative again and not really get caught up on the activities that we have been doing, but really look at the language and see how we can edit some of those activities to make sure we are completing all these different activities that we said we would complete. But it's definitely helpful that we do have that other CTE grant that does give students some more work-based learning opportunities. Due to having that grant, we've had some STEM and STEAM organizations reach out to us. There was a group that reached out. They had a free Girls Who Code, I think is what it was called, for any student of color, any female student of color. So we were able to promote that throughout our Indigenous communities. We make sure we're transmitting that information to all 7 of our federally recognized tribes. And we go ahead, we now have social media. So we're hoping to start promoting different things via our Facebook, Instagram, and what else, Twitter and LinkedIn. So those are some ways we've been reaching out to the students more specifically.
Well, thank you, Kara. It sounds like you guys have got great things moving in the right direction. And yeah, definitely it sounded like a few challenges there, but it looks like you're moving forward. And those are some great things to promote. Yeah, really nice opportunities for the kids to get involved in. So that's fantastic. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
And we just wanted to invite Roxanne. Did you have anything to share? All right. Well, I want to thank you so much. If anyone else, would there be any other teams that would like to share what's happening or talk about a challenge or something that's going on in their program? All right, excellent, very good. So again, we're going to kind of come back to this, come back to talking about challenges, talking about what's happening in the programs. We're going to try to do that regularly as we go through these talking circles, because, you know, sharing with each other is valuable. We love to hear what's going on, but hopefully as you talk with your colleagues and the folks that are, you know, engaging in this work, we'll be able to talk through some of those challenges and also to talk about and celebrate some of those great things you've got going on. So thank you so much for sharing some of the neat things you've got happening in your program. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. And then again, one last question. Are there any other challenges that are top of the mind for you? So again, you can open your mic or put that in the chat. Just one last call. If there's any other challenges, you know, if you put those in, that'll be something maybe we can bring up in future sessions. So we'll let you do that as we move forward. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right. So as we look at work-based learning, again, we're going to look at a few resources we wanted to share with you that address some of the challenges that you brought up. And Donna's going to put, Alani's going to put in the chat the work-based learning toolkit. This is a great resource, and that's the first resource that we're going to talk about. The Work-Based Learning Toolkit was created in 2017 by a staff from the National Center for Innovation in Career Technical Education for the Office of Career Technical and Adult Education, U.S. Department of Ed. It's designed to support state administrators in the creation or expansion of statewide work-based learning opportunities. So the development of the toolkit contains NCICTE staff. They reviewed the WBL literature, conducted phone interviews with state, local, and business stakeholders, and performed a scan of the existing technical assistance resources to support WBL implementation. The toolkit will provide state and local program administrators with information regarding the key components of work-based learning, such as alignment with classroom and work-based learning, application of academic, technical, and employability skills in a work setting. It was developed with state and local administrators in mind. And although given the role that tribal education departments serve, you may find the information has relevance for you and your work and context, as well as given the unique roles of a tribal education office and agency, which is why we wanted to share it with you. It offers guidelines and resources related to creating a WBL strategy and collecting data for evaluation and improvement efforts. So now we're going to take a look and go in and take just a few looks at some of the resources that are in there. So if we're going to look at, go to the next slide and look at two areas that may be of particular interest that are sections on engaging employees and scaling effective programs. On each tab, you'll find sample activities, artifacts, and in the Scaling Up tab, you can read about connections to other federal policies and finding streams for WBL that you may be able to connect with. So making those great connections. One topic that has come up in prior talking circles is around employer concerns about youth in the workplace. And we just talked about that this morning, didn't we? In Engaging Employer section, you can read about specific activities that programs have taken on to address this concern. We will again put that link in the chat for you, and it links specifically to that particular activity, that particular resource, because we know you've talked about that and it's important. Under Address Employees' Liability Concerns, you can read about engaging third parties to provide insurance support. And here's a great example. In Rutherford County, Tennessee, the local Chamber of Commerce actually contracts with a third-party organization to serve as that employer of record for the chamber-sponsored internship program, providing payroll and insurance support to employees that host interns. So that's a great example of a way that you can collaborate with partners to support those projects. There's also sample products that programs or state developed can help educate employers about myths and facts around work-based learning. That's another great one. So we'll also put that in the chat for you, that myths and facts that can really be helpful as you're working with your partners. And also the College and Career Success Center, we're going to put that in. This is another resource, a second resource that we want to share with you. So this is a self-assessment tool developed by a formerly federally funded technical assistance center, the College and Career Readiness and Success Center. So this again is a self-assessment tool. It's an intermediary practice tool that supports the development, improvement, and operationalization and implementation of strategies that contribute to a comprehensive, high-quality WBL system. The tool was developed with state leaders in mind, and it's defined in this resource. An intermediary is somebody that is essentially an organization that brokers that relationship necessary for work-based learning efforts. So in your role as tribal education agencies or consortiums of tribes, you may find that you relate to both the role akin to a state education agency or that of the intermediary. So again, it can be helpful as you kind of think of your role in that respect. The center developed the self-assessment to help WBL providers identify both those strengths and opportunities for growth in planned or current systems. Again, with the aim of ensuring that states have robust intermediary strategies that support those WBL stakeholders. So the self-assessment is based on a national and state level resource on intermediary strategies and structures. Once drafted, 10 states participated in the state-based work-based learning initiative. They reviewed, piloted, and provided feedback. So it's been looked at by folks in the field. So that's always good to know. And the self-assessment is organized into 5 core elements that are crucial for quality intermediaries. Under each core element, there are subsections that you can review, and that helps you to assess your progress across those stages of implementation. The self-assessment covers 5 essential elements: infrastructure, capacity building, stakeholder engagement and communications, alignment of internal and external policies, funding, etc., and monitoring and feedback. 2 areas that have come up in previous discussions are infrastructure and capacity building. We know those are 2 really important things that you've talked about before. So if we go on, we can see about capacity building, and the sub-element 2.1 is identifying WBL implementation needs. 2.2 is around the support for the development of intermediary competencies, and 2.3 around offering multiple mechanisms for high quality and useful technical assistance. So all really important topics. Each sub-element is defined or described in a continuum of implementation. So you can kind of look across that continuation of implementation, and you decide what stage you're based on that description. You'd give yourself a score. And then finally, the tool includes a score sheet. So that's also helpful. So as you look across there, you give yourself that score. You can end up with a score sheet. It compiles those scores together and helps you identify those areas of strength or areas for growth. In fact, I'm going to suggest that the self-assessment might be a useful exercise to do with your program or with your partners or your collaborators. The activity could be done internally, or it could be an exercise that, again, you complete with a partner. And what that could do for you, it could help generate some reflective discussions about what is needed to strengthen the partnership or grow capacity. So it's useful for that also. And then finally, the tool features a compilation of resources aligned with each sub-element. So as you look at that and you look at the areas maybe for growth or opportunities for growth, there's some great resources aligned with each sub-element. So even if you don't necessarily use it in its entirety, complete the self-assessment, you might find those resources helpful around specific aspects, again, as we talked about capacity building or stakeholder engagement. So again, a great resource, something to look at and think about. And that brings me to then the final resource I wanted to share with you today. All right, so again, we'll post this in the chat. This final resource focuses specifically on a 5-step process for stakeholder engagement. It was developed by staff at the BSR, which is a large non-for-profit organization. And while they work worldwide on sustainable business strategies and solutions, given their diverse perspectives and focus on equity, this can be a really insightful resource for engaging stakeholders in meaningful ways, which is why we wanted to share it with you. It breaks down each step in detail with descriptions, definitions, examples, and rationales why each step is important, including those key considerations, do's and don'ts, and tips for success, which is really helpful. The resource and strategies under the step stakeholder mapping might be useful. We wanted to kind of elevate that one today. When you're selecting partners or when you're deciding how you're going to engage with partners. And just a couple points I want to stress today. I want to just bring out a couple resources you might want to take a look at. On page 20, under stakeholder mapping, there's a table that rates different stakeholder groups according to various criteria, things like influence, expertise, capacity, and trust. Can be really helpful to take a look at that. On page 23. There's a mapping process that describes whereby stakeholders or partners are placed on a quadrant of expertise and influence. And this really helps us visualize the capacity of different groups. So that can be really helpful to go over with your team as you're looking kind of at those different partners that you're working with. On page 24, this table outlines 6 activities representing a continuum of engagement strategies. Depending on whether you want to use them, thinking about, again, what is the purpose of your partnership with the stakeholder groups, and that defines each one and then gives you an example, which can also be very helpful. So all of these steps and processes are intended to help the user be strategic and purposeful in choosing which groups to engage with and selecting those strategies. So again, we know how precious your time is and what a challenge it is. So this gives us some really great resources to help us be very strategic about how we go about in that stakeholder engagement. You'll find the processes and insights helpful in planning both your overall engagement strategy and then also thinking about those specific engagement activities with specific stakeholders. So we wanted to kind of elevate those and bring those to your attention and let you know we think those are really useful and helpful resources you might find as you work through your process. All right. So I've talked a lot right now. Give you just a second to kind of digest that. And then we'll go ahead and move forward. All right. We're going to take a look at some upcoming events in just a minute. But before we go on, before we do that, let's go back to this for just a second. Any questions, thoughts, or comments? Has anybody had a chance to look at any of these tools before, or anything that you want to comment or talk about, or questions about those? All right. Well, we hope you find them useful when you have a chance to go through them and look at them. Again, feel free to reach out or even to share. You know, if you find one that's particularly useful, let us know which one you're finding useful, and maybe that's one we can elevate and talk a little more about as a team. That would be very helpful. We'd love to hear which ones you find to be particularly useful. All right. So again, let's look at a few upcoming events. So we'll go ahead and look at the first one. And that's one very exciting event is the OIE Native American Heritage Month celebration. And the online celebration is going to take place on Tuesday, November 15th from 3 to 4:30 Eastern time via Zoom. And so we're going to give you that link now to go ahead and register for that if you'd like. And for even more events being hosted across the federal government, not necessarily by OIE, but there's another resource we're going to share with you, another link, so you can look at some of those other events that are happening across the government and take a look and see if maybe those are some ones you and your team want to engage in, or you want your constituents to engage in those. So we'll share those with you, and we want to encourage you to go ahead and take a look at those. We're really excited about those events coming up. And then we'll go to the next one. And that event is the OIE Student Artist Competition. We're really excited to talk about that one. That's going to launch on the November 15th Native American Heritage Month celebration. So at that point, you'll get more details and be able to figure out how you're going to, you and your students or your constituents are going to, participate in that. And it's a great opportunity to engage youth in their culture and heritage. So we're excited about that. We're excited to share more information with you about that. And OIE will be sharing that on the 15th. So mark your calendars. That's a good one to make sure you have the information for. Now, this one isn't one only for our new grantee, Cheyenne Arapaho. Sarah, have they had a chance to join us yet?
Nope, they're not on just yet. So we can save that and we'll touch base with them separately.
Excellent. All right. So again, we just wanted to, let them know about that. And you probably all remember when you were new grantees, the support that's provided. So we won't dwell on that. All right. So we just wanted to let you know again, a few reminders here on the screen. And in the chat is the email address to contact your technical assistance team. So be sure and do that. In addition, you can schedule one-on-one time with your TA team. And to do that, there's that calendar link right there at the bottom, which we'll post in the chat for you. So you can do that. You can do it in 30 minutes. You can do it for 60 minutes. Schedule those one-on-one sessions as you need them, as they're helpful to you. So make sure you have that and that you save it because we definitely want to provide that support as you need it. Okay. We'll leave that up for just a second and in the chat so you can grab those as you need them. All right, excellent. All right, we'll go ahead and move to the next then. So we've got some time. So we'd love to open it up now. If you have any questions, any thoughts, anything to share, we'd love to open that up to the larger group and see if there's anything you'd like to bring to the front.
This is Allison, and I hate to always take up time.
You're fine,
but-
Allison.
But one of the things that we're struggling with is teacher recruitment. It's one of our goals. And we wrote it in our grant specifically for our county because our county really lacks Native American CTE teachers, in specifically in the 6 sectors that we identified. And we did a whole year of planning and consulting with people and getting the word out. And then we opened up for recruiting after we had our application all put together and all the different bells and whistles that we needed for the program. We have received 15 applications total, and none of them are either eligible or they have something that prohibits them from working in a school with children, like a felony. So I'm like, when we started having applications trickle in, they were outside of our county, and our service area is our county. So if they live outside the county, that disqualified them. Then there were people that they weren't Native American according to the guidelines that have to be a descendant or a member of a federally recognized tribe or a state tribe. They weren't. So they're like, well, my ancestors, I'm like, great, but if you have nothing that shows me that you have the eligibility, I can't do it. So that was then. And then people that they don't turn in all of the paperwork. And then when we do the background check, and we finally got someone through all the paperwork, and we did a background check, felony. And I can't put them through a program and then expect them to get a job in a school when the schools are going to do the same exact thing that we did, which is a background check. So we've been trying to tailor our outreach, and we've contacted tribes and school districts and just all kinds of organizations. And we are very specific, needs to be Native American. And we give them the definition now, and needs to live in Humboldt County and needs these things. And I don't know if we've set the barrier too much, and I'm concerned that we're not going to meet our goal. If I could open it up outside of our stated service area of Humboldt County, oh, there's 8 of them. I could go boom like that. But the point is to create teachers for our county, because our schools are lacking those teachers. So it's like, I would love to do it, but that's not the point. So I'm struggling with that. That's one of our APR. It's one of our project goals. And I mean, we're doing retraining. I'm getting lots of teacher training and lots of retention. You know, we're offering externships, so teachers are like, oh, yay. And they're staying and expanding, and they're getting their CE credits for their credentials. And so everything's great on that retrain and the retain, but recruiting, oh my Lord, I don't know what to do. I'm beseeching you, help me, please.
Well, I'm going to jump in. I have a question. So I know your service area is Humboldt County. As long as they're willing to, sign something saying that they're going to come teach in Humboldt County, does it matter if they live there?
That's a good question. I don't know if Department of Ed would you guys accept that? If I got them to write a statement that they would come work in Humboldt County schools, how do we enforce that? I mean, once they go through our program and they get their CTE credential through our program, how do I force them to come work in our schools?
Yeah. Now, and ultimately, kind of like you see, because I know you have the PD grant too, and you can't force them to ultimately work somewhere, but you could have them, similar to your PD program, enter into some kind of agreement where there's a certain price point for the training you're putting into them.
Yeah.
And that if they don't fulfill their end of the agreement, which is to come teach in Humboldt County for, say, a year, that maybe there's some type of, repayment of that training they have to do or something like that, so that there's a little skin in the game for them, that they understand, like, we're putting a lot into you.
Yeah.
We're asking something of that.
You're right. Totally, Sarah, with the service payback agreement, we have that for the PD grant. And then the U.S. Department of Ed has the PDPD-CS system online,
Right.
that they have to go and log into, that they say, I was in the system, I was in 10 months, I spent this much on tuition and stipends, and they have to put in that time to pay off that thing. And while the Blue Lake Rancheria has a service payback agreement for our tribe, when we give someone a scholarship for going to school or this kind of credential, the only mechanism we have is our tribal court.
Yeah.
If that comes to that.
Yeah. And ultimately, there may not be a whole lot of repercussion to it, but if it at least gives them that stronger understanding of the commitment, then, I think hopefully, and you may look at kind of past experience to see what you think, but hopefully that would cause most of them to fulfill that requirement.
Yeah.
And again, you're always going to have a few who are going to take advantage of any system, but if you got those 8 to all go through and say that they were going to teach, if at least 6 of those 8 actually ended up in classrooms in the county, that would be amazing.
Okay. Well, how do I go about expanding our service area?
Now that's a Donna question, as far as, does she need, if they're going to teach there, but they're just not going to reside there, would she be able to change that? Does she have to turn in a letter?
And since I'm
not sure.
pretty new
Hey,
to this, okay, there
Allison,
you go. That's what I was.
What kind of agreement is there with the PD program?
With the PD program, we did a 276-mile radius of the Blue Lake Rancheria. So we cover almost all of Northern California, basically from Santa Rosa area down near San Francisco, all the way over the Oregon border and into like Shasta County towards Nevada. We go out that way. And we have had full participation. We planned on 8 cohort members each cohort, and we've had them. We've had a couple have to go on leave of absence because of family issues, but they're coming back in the next cohort. We did have 3 drop out this cohort because of family issues again, and hopefully we're going to bring them back. But we've gotten great responses, and of our 6 graduates that happened this May, 4 of them are now employed as administrators. So and 3 of them here in Humboldt County and 1 in Shasta County, but all of our cohort people for our second cohort, they're in Lake and Mendo County, which is south of us, and Trinity County, which is northeast of us. So they're not in Humboldt County, but they're in Northern California. And that was a part of our service area for our PD grant. But for the STEP grant, we were focusing on Humboldt County. If I could open it up to the same area as our PD grant, oh my God, I think I'd be flooded.
Well, why don't you do this? Because I think that's ultimately going to be an attorney question on how, because when you think about the grant overall, it's scored on what they say they're going to do. And if you can say you've exhausted every part of Humboldt County that you're just not able to recruit, and in order to make this grant successful, you need to expand, what needs to happen? Because it would require them to say, okay, this is what you need to do. And whether it's some kind of statement, whether it's some kind of agreement, who knows? We just don't know that. But if you could present your question and your needs and just simple, this is what my question, these are the needs. So even if it's just like, it sounds like with your recruitment areas, expanding your recruitment area, but not the service area, or perhaps you need to expand that too. Whatever it is that you would like to see to make this grant successful, that's what we would need to put forward to.
Okay. And who do I address it to, Donna? Do I address it to you
You can do it to both Donna Bustle and CC me.
Okay.
Because Donna, what we'll do is once we get a clarification on what she, it sounds like Sarah's in the background taking a look at the grant application, would be expanding the recruitment area, but keeping the same service area. If that's the case, just state exactly what you want to see happen, and then what the issue is, and see how you would like to address it. And then we can put that forward to the attorneys and say, is this allowable?
Okay. All right. That would be great. And should I submit that with my APR update next week, or should I submit that with the budget update on November 17th?
You can do it sooner than later. So once you just put it with your APR update, I think that would be a good accompaniment so you could see how you're struggling, because it'll show that probably, since you haven't been able to fill those numbers, I imagine. So
yeah,
perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Excellent. Any other questions? Anything else anyone has they'd like to bring to the front? All right. All right. As always, if something comes up in the meantime, please reach out. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. And just a few reminders, important dates to note in your calendars. Remember, you have access to your OIE technical assistance team and program officers at the monthly drop-in hours, and the fourth Thursday of every month, drop in for a minute or for an hour. We're here for you. As we discussed, your APR updates are due October 27th. Your year 3 budget revisions are due November 17th. And the next quarterly talking circle will take place on Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Hopefully you've got that in your calendar, but let us know and we'll make sure you have that date. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our feedback poll. This is really important for you to give us some feedback. We appreciate your candor. It really helps us to improve our TA. So you'll see the poll come up. And we'd love for you to take just a minute right now and go ahead and fill it in for us. Give us your honest feedback. Okay, we'll give you just a minute more to let you fill that out. Sarah, are we getting the?
Yep,
is-
we're all set.
Good, excellent.
Yeah, and Patty, everybody's completed the poll, so you can go ahead.
Perfect. All right, excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap then with our last slide. And we just again want to remind you that if you want us to add any other staff members to the distribution list, please let us know your grantee name, contact info for any of those you want to add, and we'll be happy to put them on the distribution list. And you can just let us know that. We want to just again remind you of the emails of the folks that are here to support you to reach out to. So please feel free to do that at any point in time. And we just want to thank you so much for being with us today. We know how busy your schedules are, and thank you for your time with us today. Thank you for sharing about some great things that are happening in your programs. And we just want to let you know to have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you all for being here.